Welcome to the Anti-Weather Modification channel on YouTube. Here we go again.
Geoengineering burst onto the Parliament scene with a report from the Science and Technology Committee for 2009 and 2010 titled The Regulation of Geoengineering. The report summarized that regulation needed to be introduced urgently due to the fast-changing pace of technology. The committee also stated that the public should be involved at all points of the legislation process. Keep in mind now the previous 1950s statement, where the Met Office guy said the government needs to get to grips with the subject. Here we are in 2026, and no legislation banning it or governing it has been created. There are very basic regulations to abide by, such as complying with regulations that confirm any particulates dispersed at altitude fall to ground within 5 years. 1 year after that, in September 2011, Cambridge University announced in a press statement that the Stratospheric Particle Injection for Climate Engineering, geoengineering experiment, also known as SPICE, would be carried out in collaboration with the unis of Bristol, Edinburgh, and Oxford, and also Marshall Aerospace. Originating in October 2010, the government-funded experiment would use balloons or gondolas to distribute sunlight-reflective materials into the stratosphere.
The Independent newspaper reported in October 2011 how the project could result in 20 balloons combined to equal the size of Wembley Stadium, used to distribute particulates at an altitude of 20 kilometers. The experiment was set to be carried out in the early part of 2012 near Fakenham in Norfolk. Members of the public contacted the RSPB and nature reserves in the area and local media outlets in Norfolk, and within days of those activist activities, the project was cancelled. Initially reported in the media in May 2012 as being cancelled due to funding issues from the private investors, it was announced soon after that the project was cancelled due to conflict of interest issues and concerns with the patents being used, which was probably down to David Keith. No mention was made of the public complaints or objections via awareness-raising activities. The experiment was moved to New Mexico in the USA. Under the management of David Keith, who was formerly of Harvard and is now at Chicago Uni, the experiment was carried out in July 2012. According to the Guardian newspaper in August 2018, the SPICE project in the UK was abandoned in 2015 after research showed that geoengineering would have an adverse effect on agriculture. Hugh Hunt, the acting director of the Centre for Climate Repair at Cambridge Uni, claimed in the Australian ABC news outlet in August 2020 that his SPICE project was cancelled due to the Oxford Principles on Geoengineering. The Defence and Security Media Advisory Office confirmed in August 2015 that there has never been, nor will there ever be, any kind of D-notice given to the media on the subject of geoengineering. In January 2021, a paper was released titled A Demonstration of a Remotely Piloted Atmospheric Measurement and Charge Release Platform for Geoengineering via the AMS. It claimed that the electric charge method is an unexplored geoengineering technique for modifying fogs, clouds, and rainfall. That is inaccurate, as the method has existed since the 1960s. In May 2021, Bath Uni announced that its drone UAV-based electric charge method platform had been tested in the UAE. A Freedom of Information request response from the Uni in 2022 regarding their UK-based proof-of-concept tests carried out over the Bristol area. This confirms the legislation arguments mentioned earlier when they stated that when the UAV flights took place in 2019, there was no requirement to make any public notifications or to obtain permission from any government organisation. The public was not informed about the experiments beforehand, as there are no legal requirements obligating the university into public notifications. Moving on to March 2023, and an interview was published by the MIT Technology Review website, titled Researchers Launched a Solar Geoengineering Test Flight in the UK. MIT stated that the experiment, largely designed to test equipment, took place despite deep concerns about the technology. The project lead, Andrew Lockley, was clearly fuming in the interview due to information about his experiment being released. The experiments took place in September 2022 and involved releasing sulfur dioxide from a high-altitude balloon, essentially copying the previously mentioned methods by other people. The Stratospheric Aerosol Transport and Nucleation Experiment, or SATAN for short, were released from a launch site in Buckinghamshire in southeast England. No public notifications were given beforehand. You'll notice the lack of public notification regarding experiments carried out in the UK. This is because of the public backlash as proven by the SPICE experiment. Professor David Keith, a leading geoengineering advocate, stated around 2021 that it is harder to find funding for projects due to the negative response from the public about such experiments, hence why researchers in the UK are keeping their experiments low-key. They know the public is against what they want to do, which is also something those researchers have invested their lives and careers into. Spraying the skies out tried to go from covert to overt with the introduction of the Advanced Research Invention Agency based at the British Library. That's coming next.
You have been watching the Anti-Weather Modification channel on YouTube.